What's up, everybody? A Left It Wall update. Left It Wall is now available on Tubi. What does that mean? That means you get to watch it for free. I know there's so many streaming services out there, so many monthly fees, that sometimes renting or buying something just seems like a pain and yet another expense. Well, now it's available free. If you're not already using Tubi, I highly recommend it. You can get it on your smart TV, or you can just watch it online on your computer. Just type in Left It Wall movie, and the Tubi link should come up as one of the available ways to watch it. So if you haven't watched it yet, come on. Now you've got to. Left It Wall on Tubi. Episode 111. Christian Reilly. Christian Reilly is a musical comedian and self-proclaimed MMT lover. Are you familiar with modern monetary theory? Honestly, I don't even know if it's accurate to refer to it as a theory, because it's basically just the actual way money works. Christian breaks it down and shares what got him into MMT in the first place. Please welcome to the show, Christian Reilly. Christian Reilly, good to see you. Good to finally connect with you.
The vice versa. It's great to meet you. I feel like, re-meet you.
Yeah. So I want to start at the very, very beginning. Where did you grow up? Where are you from? Tell me some about the origin story.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, I grew up in Nottingham, in the Midlands. That's it's in the middle of the country. It's where Robin Hood's from.
Right.
That's really where I grew up. Kind of working class family. My dad worked down the mine as an electrician. Then he worked on oil rigs. I think that he's retired now, but the last place he worked was on an oil rig off the coast of Brazil. It could get pretty boring if I just list every
No. It's yeah. No. It's. I've never been to Nottingham. The main things I know about it is, of course, Robin Hood, and then I know there's been a lot of fracking activism going on there in recent years, like anti-fracking.
I did not know that. I didn't know that.
I can't speak to all the details.
We had the colliery there, and then it closed down. It closed down a long time ago. But the legacy is still there. And then there's Nottingham Forest, the fantastic football team as well. So.
Yeah, well, I think it is like they're trying to frack Nottingham Forest, and people are saying you shouldn't do that. And I think I don't want to speak too much on it because I'm not totally fluent in the most recent happenings. But I think the good guys are winning. The good guys, of course, being the environmentalist. but I think the good guys are winning.
Okay.
I think.
That's good.
Don't quote me on that. But I know like that's in that. So I don't know a ton about Nottingham, but it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I really like the place. I go back a lot. Family's still there, and I live in West London at the moment. I have been down here since about 20. I've been there 25 years. So, but still very attached to Nottingham.
So was it creative activities that got you to London, and kind of how did all that happen? Like, what did you find your way to? Did you start doing music first, or what?
Yeah, I started. I was in a band like doing cover versions when I was like 15, maybe. We liked rock music. Anything with like a loud guitar solo in it. I used to. Well, I still do. I like Van Halen. That kind of stuff. And then eventually my taste sort of matured. I started writing songs, and I had this band by the time I was sort of like 20-ish. In my 20s, I had this band that was like a mixture of covers and original songs. And it was kind of making half a living out of it. And then one day, I was hanging out with a friend, and we were playing records, and he played me Nighthawks at the Diner by Tom Waits. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it's a live album, and he tells stories and he sings the song, and then he tells another story, and so, there's a song, and I love the way that the narratives all just sort of weave together, and I thought, God, I'd love it if to be able to give performances like this. So I started investigating spoken word performances rather than just music, and I ended up at the stand-up comedy night thinking, this is like the crystallization of everything that I'm interested in. And the first comedian I saw in, I don't know, early 90s in the function room of a pub was Sean Locke. I don't know how familiar you or your viewers will be with Sean Locke, but he passed away recently, late, great, very funny guy, a legend. And anyway, that it just blew my mind. I had no idea what an art form stand-up comedy was. So I just started going to watch that, religiously, weekly, going to the local club. And then, I just wanted to try and mix what I was doing with that kind of stuff. And eventually the comedy side of things took over. So the promoter knew... the promoter of our local club was very friendly with Rich Hall, who had sort of started working in the UK a lot more. American comedian, may be familiar with him. And he had a character called Otis Lee Crenshaw that was like a country and western singer, but also a recidivist, in and out of jail kind of character. And he performed that maybe... Now we're getting towards the end of the 90s. He performed this character in Edinburgh Festival one year, and my friend, the Nottingham promoter, a guy called Daryl, saw it and said to Rich, "I want to book you for my comedy night in Nottingham. Can you do it? Can you do this character?" And he said, "Well, I definitely need a bass player and a guitarist or something like that." And so he knew my band, the promoter, and they said, "Do you want to do this?" And I kind of did think about it for about, I don't know, 10 seconds. I was like, yeah, absolutely. Sounds like a great thing to do. So we started playing with Rich. We did it. This is how long ago it was. He sent us a cassette recording of him doing it with another band.
Well, now those are making a comeback.
So we had mixtapes, right? We had a rough idea of like what he was going to do, and the idea was, the first time we played together, it was at this club, and he's the doors are open at like 8, and he said, "Well, I'll get there at 6 or 7 or so. We'll have at least half an hour before that." As it happened, he showed up about 7:45, and we didn't get time to run through anything at all, really. And a lot of it is improv, and it certainly was at that point as well. But you kind of know. You know how to roll with it. So we did this one gig, and it was kind of autumn, and at the end of it, he said, "That was really good. Do you want to come on tour with me at some point?" Probably next year. And me and my friend, who was the bass player, said, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And then we didn't hear anything for ages, and we just thought, that was probably just chat. And then in the new year, his agent got in touch, and we did one tour, and then we did another tour, and then went all over the place. Went to the States, went to Australia. The show won the Perrier Award in 2000, I think. So it was a wild few years. In that time, I got to lots of time to sort of work on my own stuff, And so that's how I kind of journeyed from just being interested in music and wanting to make interesting performances into doing the circuit basically, and doing the Edinburgh Festival and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's kind of funny because I My origin story in stand up is a little similar. Like I played in punk bands in high school. We were down, I mean, it was just like power chord, garage, fun stuff. And then in college, I got really interested in community radio, and then I was really into politics by that point too. And I'd done theater, and so stand up comedy like seemed like a way to get into, like radio and talk, which actually ended up happening for me in kind of a roundabout way. But yeah, so like I went to my first open mic, not really knowing much about comedy or what it was all about, but knowing I wanted to try it. And yeah, so since
When
you've
was your
always,
first open mic? How long ago was that?
so that would have been, I dabbled in it once in like 2006. And I basically did a guest set. So my first time was actually at a proper show, which I do not recommend for anybody. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know you were supposed to write stuff ahead of time. I thought you like had to just riff.
Right.
So I was terrible. Like I was so not
Yeah.
funny. I held the mic like I was singing. So like I held the mic like right up to my face and stuff. And it was so atrocious.
Yeah.
But
You're like
then
Henry Rollins style.
and that was the only person I
Because
knew too. Like I didn't know, like I knew Bill Hicks, I knew George.
He still holds the mic like that as well, doesn't he, Henry Rollins?
Yeah,
He's doing his spoken word shows. He's got the mic cable wrapped around, like he's Bruce Dickinson.
yeah. But he holds it a decent amount away from his face, like he knows
Yeah,
that
sure.
but he still does hold it like he's singing. But yeah, I just, and then it wasn't until I moved to Seattle the following year in 2007 that I really really started doing stand up. Like I got
Yeah.
involved in the comedy scene. I started going up a couple times a week, blah blah blah. But yeah. So as a musical comedian, like how was it always easy for you to kind of get on circuits, or like were some people, because I know sometimes like people could be a bit negative towards musical comedy. Have you ever experienced any of that, or has it always been like, you're good at what you do and
Well,
so here's a place for you?
yeah, yeah. I think it's more like the second one, Ron. I'm probably like, I think people are really, nice and polite to to me. But when I'm in the room, I'm sure that there might be people. I just accept, and I think we all should accept that. Nothing's for everybody. So yeah, there are probably
Sure.
people who don't like what I do, but that's kind of that's life, isn't it? And the circuit itself, like the process of like just going out there, coming back, thinking what's funny, what could possibly be funny, and trying it out. That kind of knocks all the rough edges off eventually. I think it's. I think what I've always wanted to try and do, or what I've always aimed at doing, is making sure that the what I'm doing on stage in comedy clubs, it has the texture of stand up. So, it is like I'm talking my way into the bits. I'm not like, right, I walk on stage, I start playing a song and you've got to get it because I'm doing a song. It's like, no, I'm talking to you like any other comedian that came out of here tonight. And then just to sort of like explain some of these things that I find funny, I might need to just sing a little bit or play a little bit, and then eventually there's more and more music in it, and it's almost like I'm trying to buy the credibility to do a song, instead of starting out there. Look, here's the setup is I'm a singer. Here I go, which I think is fine. I see some great sort of character acts that kind of like have a great way of setting up who they are, almost before they open their mouth, and that's it. They're in character. Whereas I'm still me. I'm just sort of bumbling my way into the bits kind of thing. I think just mucking about, with my voice and with the guitar. That's kind of how I do it. So yeah, I want it to be like stand up. I want it to make you feel like stand up comedians who don't music make you feel like the person kind of walked on stage and thought, I was thinking about this the other day, and and here's the funny thing that I thought. Do you think it's funny as well? Bang, bang, that's how I try and do it.
Yeah, well, I think like what you're doing is straight up musical comedy. Like it's all like cohesive, and it's just really, and you're also very good. Like you're really, really good at it. And so I think I'll tell you, this is a fun side note. The most interesting quote unquote guitar act I ever saw. And it wasn't a guitar act. So here's what this guy did. He was the headliner for the evening. He gets up on stage. He has a guitar with him. The guitar is just off to the side the entire show. So we're thinking, oh, maybe he just has like a finale where like he incorporates a song or something, because that happens. He's pitching his merch, like, hey, I'll be selling t-shirts after the show, whatever. And he picks up the guitar and he goes, so by the way, I just started learning guitar. It's a fun hobby of mine. And I bought this guitar. And I really want to write it off on my taxes this year. So, and then he just strums one chord and he goes, you all saw that. And he puts his guitar back. I was like, that was hilarious.
I don't know if you ever saw or heard of Ian Cognito, who's kind of a British circuit legend. Ian Cognito, again, passed away recently, sadly, and, very much missed, but he did have like one song that he would do, but a lot of the time he wouldn't do it. Right, so he would walk on stage with a guitar, and he got one of these ones that just looks like a plank of wood, and so that he could just have it around his, just it's on his back kind of thing, and it's barely even there because it's one of these dinky little things, and and his style is very ranty, and he's and in the middle of the rant, he'll be going, you'll be like, I don't know, at some point when he's nearly at the end of the set, and he's obviously decided he's not doing a song, and he'd be like, and this pisses me off, that pisses me off, and do you know, I don't even know what this fucking thing on the back of my back fucking even is.
Nice, yeah.
and so he ends up having done the performance and just sort of to an audience that I've not seen him before, it's like, oh right, so he really did just walk on to make a joke about not knowing.
No, dude, totally. And there's all kinds of like clever ways to incorporate it. And I mean, like there was a time where, like when I was, where I had some parody songs that were out there. So like I would do them live at the end of my sets for like a little bit of time when they were like really circulating online and stuff. But
I saw your Love Me, I'm a Liberal online actually. I love that song, and I really love what you did with it as well. It's such a great song, as well. But your adaptation at that time was, excellent.
Well, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that a lot. And dude, I could tell you kind of a trippy story about that sort of ties into some stuff with the UK and whatnot. So. A little while before I did my version of Love Me, I'm a Liberal, I got engaged. We're now married, but I proposed in Princess Street. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's been it's been years now, but thank you. but I proposed in Princess Street Garden in Edinburgh, and I found out
lovely.
Oh yeah, beautiful place, and I found out. On this show, actually, I was interviewing a guy. I don't know if you know. Do you know Latch? Do you know who Latch is? He's a New York anti-folk guy he lives in Scotland now, but he was in New York for years.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll look at it. Right. Yeah, my wife's dude. Scottish, so she might know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I found this out. Where I proposed is where Phil Oak's ashes were spread. I didn't know that at the time, but it's like, his ashes were spread around there in Princess Street Garden. Because like when I mentioned I was engaged or I got engaged there, Latch goes, Phil Oakes have any significant role in your life at any point? And I go, well, I guess sort of. Like I once did a version of Love Me, I'm a Liberal, and I did it live some, and I like updated the lyrics and whatnot. And he goes, was it around the same time? And I go, yeah, I mean, it was within like a year or two. And he goes, yeah, you proposed where Phil Oakes' ashes were spread. And I'm like, no shit, dude. Like, I didn't know that. It was like eerie. But yeah, so I don't know. For any mystics out there, that's a random fun piece of but yeah, like I think so I think it's fun where you
happened.
like yeah, right? Like so I think it's fun like where people get
spirit entered you and
maybe I don't know. Yeah, it's a trippy thing. But I guess what like also, there's fun ways to incorporate music, but like someone who just like incorporates music at the end or something like that, or has it in a random part, or it's that's not like a musical comedian. Like you are a musical comedian, but when I see different musical comedians, there are some who that's what they do, and they like, and it is very fluid, and it all makes sense, and it's beautiful, and it's so much freaking fun to watch, and that's you. And then there's others where it's obvious they just want to get to the next song. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's they just want to get to the next song. And it's like, and that's not, so it's like with you, it's like, that's what you do. And it all makes sense, and it's all fluid, and it's all just like entertaining as hell and awesome. But then it's like, there's others that you'll see where it's like, you're just trying to fill your time and get to the next song. And you just, you just have these jokes in there. Cause if you just played your songs, you couldn't get booked at a comedy club,
yeah.
So let's get into how I'm pretty sure we initially found each other, and that is your interest in MMT, modern monetary theories.
Money theory.
So how did that come into your creative world?
Well, I started. I think everybody was impacted by the great financial crisis, and you start writing stuff about you want it to, even if you're doing absurd stuff, you want it to link to real things that are happening, and comedy clubs were closing down. People were, we'd gone from like a really good. You were turning work down as a circuit act, in the early to mid 2000s. There was just, people, there was a lot of disposable income. People were like, well, we went bowling last night. What are we going to do tonight? Yeah, comedy sounds good, good. And, the comedy clubs were, pretty much on in some form or another all week. And you'd got the sort of colleges midweek, and then the weekend clubs at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes 2 shows on Saturday, sometimes a matinee on a Sunday, all that kind of stuff. And so, however, the way it hit us is like people have less disposable income, and it just shrinks back and back, and the venues close down, and it's not just the obviously, you'd love gigging, and that's why you do it, but also you've made all friends with like my wife, who I'm married to now. I probably, the first time I met her, I don't think about it a lot because I've known her for so long, but it would have been like years and years ago, like in because she was a producer, and it's all these other people that you meet around the job that as industries sort of collapse and economies collapse, it's all those social things, all those things you used to do together, all those connections, they all sort of disintegrate, and so it was pretty sad time really. And so anyway, I part of me is thinking I want to be able to write material about this thing that just seems to be happening to us that we have no control over, like it's the weather. But surely money is a construct, surely. How can it just sort of like it be there and not be there? And then you see all these headlines about bailouts and stuff like that. So, so the government hasn't run out of money then, or has it? Or I don't know, and so I just started reading economists and economists via blogs like the Naked Capitalism blog and stuff like that. And I just became more and more interested in that, to the point where I'm studying a master's now. I'm like a third of the way through it. And I became more and more interested in that. And then I think we started the podcast in 2018, because I basically, the first maybe MMT thing I ever read was maybe something, and he's not an MMT economist, but he's kind of very much part of the MMT story, is David Graeber, who was, lived in Britain, but he's an American originally. But he is a big figure in Occupy Wall Street, and
he left us way too soon, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, exactly. The late great David Graeber, and he wrote an article in the Guardian, the London Guardian or the UK Guardian, about the nature of money, and and the title was something like "Money is an IOU, the secret is out," and the banks are rolling in it, and all this kind of thing, and I just thought, right, okay, this is now he's written that must mean that modern money theory is going to get talked about on the left, and we're going to stop with this ridiculous politics of austerity, and because austerity is predicated on, well, the government has run out of money and it just can't bring any more money out of the private sector via taxes, so things are going to have to get cut. Public services are going to have to get cut, and obviously what people that have studied like the ontology of money will tell you is, no, the kind of money that we have now is people call it fiat currency, stuff like that. It's not. It comes into being when an authority spends it into existence. So it's not like it comes from the private sector and the government get hold of it and then they abuse it and they do all types of nasty things with your money that you give to it. It's like, no. When you pay your taxes, you are returning to the government what it put into existence in the first place. And taxation serves a different purpose. And, that's quite a bombshell for people who hear it for the first time, because then they're going, so yes, the basis of austerity, this thing that's really hurting people, and literally we had a study in the UK where they, the last time there was a study done that I can find, 300,000 deaths are linked to the austerity policies of the early 2010s. Early to mid 2010s, so it's literally fatal, and it's based on nothing, the austerity policy. So I just suddenly, that just made me sit up and think, I no, after Graeber wrote this piece and some years elapsed, I just thought, I can't believe it's not getting talked about. Even today, the news bulletins will say things like the government borrowing has gone up to an unsustainable level, or government spending's gone up to an unsustainable level, and there's nobody going, that's just factually incorrect. There are consequences of government spending, but running out of money is not one of them. Right. I think people who kind of suddenly start to understand this get very animated and very, upset about the damage that the sort of money myths are doing to the world and stuff. So anyway, I become interested in all this stuff, but I still find myself being this clown who's got these funny songs. I'm like, it's too much of a. I can't take certainly in a club at 11 o'clock at night. Which I can't take people over the hurdles they need to go over to understand this stuff. And I'm a little bit like you, Ron, in that I very much love indie media, and I love audio. I love uh, podcasts and radio and stuff like that. So I, just thought, I think I know how to do it. One thing that I studied, like in the 90s, is audio and professional sound and video technology. So I knew a little bit about how to put this together. The equipment wasn't entirely alien to me. So I thought the technical side of it I've got covered. It's now about finding the right people to talk to, and as I was sort of teaching myself about economics as a self-directed learner, I'd already been emailing or direct messaging through Facebook back and forth with a professor in Adelaide, who's also a kind of a UK expat, Stephen Hale, and I would basically I would read a lot of academic papers and stuff, and anytime I hit a wall, I'd be able to sort of talk to him and get him to put me right. So I'd done a lot of reading and asking questions and stuff before we made our first episode, and just really wanted to find a way to get these insights out there. And it seemed to me to suit the podcast medium because it's intimate, and you can, if you get into something that just needs a little bit, but you need to talk in paragraphs and not in sound bites, and there's a few moving parts to it, and you need to come away from it and come back again, and it's almost like a narrative. Then I think audio podcasts suit that, maybe even more than the sort of like webinar or the person talking into a camera. I think you might get bored of looking at slides and a person's face talking about those slides, whereas you're going out for a long walk or a workout, or you're doing your housework, or you're on your commute or something. This might be a good way to sort of go over those hurdles. It's more like trying to put a novel out there that's got quite a few chapters than putting a song out there.
Yeah, well, it's an extremely important topic and an extremely interesting one, and the messaging. I think, and you can speak to this way more than I can because you've like directly engaged with this topic more than I have, but I think the messaging, there's definitely some hurdles in it because there is still value. I think, at least, there is still value in pointing out the way government wastes resources. Like, it is still valuable, especially in like the context of the United States. It is still valuable to point out, like, all of our 90% of our government spending goes to war. Like that's still important to point out to people. However, at the same time, it's also important to point out, oh, and by the way, all the things you're taught about austerity is a big freaking lie. Both those things are true at the same time. So how do you do that balancing act? And you talked about people getting angry about that reality. I mean, bring this back into David Graeber. When I read Debt, which by the way, for everyone, people who regularly listen to anything I've ever done, they have heard me recommend that book multiple times. So this is, but Debt by David Graeber, highly recommend it. If anything we're talking about right now is remotely of interest. But when I was reading that book, I mean, I was just yelling.
Can I just jump in and say,
of course,
because the book can be quite daunting. It's quite thick, and again, I would recommend Me Being Me. The audio book is fine. But also, if you Googled David Graeber and the myth of barter, he wrote a short piece for, I think, The Atlantic of all publications, and it's kind of a boiled down version of his chapter 2, the myth of barter, from Debt. So for anybody who's like interested, but like, ooh, that book looks a bit like a doorstop.
It could be a doorstop. Yes, it is a very, very thick book. Yes, but
I'd recommend that as a way in.
Yeah. There's definitely bits and pieces you could like piece together first before tackling that. Or, honestly, do what I did. Really take your time. Like it
Yeah,
took me a
yeah,
while. Like
yeah.
it took me a while.
In a
Um,
way, there's no way around it. It just because there's quite a bit to it, and that's unfortunately what it is.
yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Well, it's like it's almost like Capital or something like that. Like
Yeah,
you're not
yeah,
gonna read every volume in like a weekend. Like you kind of take your time, you come back to it, like whatever.
yeah.
But so, well, how would you just kind of getting into some nuts and bolts then? How would you describe modern monetary theory? Like, how would you just describe that to somebody who's maybe never heard of it?
Well, okay. Well, the first thing I do is, and I'll send you this link, and maybe when you post this video, you could post this as along with it. But there's a short piece that's written by this professor that I was talking about in Adelaide, who um, uh, is excellent, and I talk to him a lot on the podcast as well. But he wrote a short piece that you could read in 5 minutes for the conversation. And it is, I think the title is something like Explainer, What is Modern Monetary Theory? And I, I direct people to that to start with, because what I like to do is start with somebody who's interested, like you just asked me, hey, what is modern monetary theory? For somebody who thinks they might want to know what modern monetary theory is, I'd go, look at this, read this for 5 minutes. If you've got questions, then I'll answer them. But I like to start with people who are already curious about it. I don't. That's why I've done a podcast, because people might recommend, other people might end up recommending it to people who ask them about money and the nature of money, and it's quite a hard proposition on a bumper sticker. It's quite, as a door-to-door salesman, it's quite a hard proposition. You don't want to cold call on people with this kind of stuff. So, so anyway, that's the way I talk about it to start with. Modern monetary theory, and then the other thing is, there's a fantastic New York Times best-selling book called The Deficit Myth by Professor Stephanie Kelton, and
Yes.
if you want to have it broken down into like in a really accessible way, I think that's the one-stop shop as well. The Deficit Myth. So the government creates money when it spends, basically, and which is like, there'll be people now throwing things at their computer screen if they're watching this. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it, because I work really hard for money, and I have to give it up and send it to the government. So if they are not spending that money that I give them, I'm angry at you for telling me that. I'm angry at them for taking the money off me, and I don't believe it. Why, taxation is so unpopular. Why do governments do it? And the way I like to explain it, and this is probably the first MMT thing that I fell in love with, which is Warren Mosler, the founder of MMT, gives this lecture. It's like a model that he used to do. He used to do in lecture halls. He would take out a business card, and he would go, "Okay, this is my business card, and I would like everybody in this theatre to stay afterwards and clean the floor for me, and I will pay you one business card per hour for you to clean the floor. Would anybody like that job? Have we got any takers?" And people like, of course not, and then he would go, "All right, how about if I pay 2 business cards an hour?" "No." "All right, 10. All right, you drive a hard bargain." And people are like, "This guy's crazy." And then he goes, "Okay, I've got to tell you one more thing. There's only one door out of here, and there's a guy there with a 9mm machine gun, and he works for me. And you can't get out of the room unless you pay him one of my business cards. Now, who would like to work cleaning the floor?" And then he goes on to say, the guy at the door is the tax man, right? And that's why states that create money when they spend, that's why they tax you. They don't tax you to get the money to be able to spend. They tax you to get you to need their money, basically. So taxes drive currency from inception, and I found that very enlightening. And then he goes on to sort of expand on the model and go, look, if there's 50 people in this room and I spend 50 cards and I tax 50 cards at the door, okay, I'm going to get 50 hours of work out of you guys because I paid you for an hour of work. And, you get to pay your tax liability. Everybody's, the system is functioning as designed. How about if I say you all need to pay one of these cards to the tax man at the door, but I only spend 45 cards into existence? Then all of a sudden it's like, okay, what the best case scenario is 5 people are going to be looking for work that pays in my business card, but it's impossible for them to have it because I've only spent 45 business cards. Those 5, that's technically, that's what we call unemployment. People who are looking to work in the state's unit of account, but can't find work that pays in that unit of account. And so, that's the situation we find ourselves in, because, if you know a little bit about economics and the way we conduct policy in our so-called advanced economies in the US and the UK, and, most places they have currency systems like ours, we deliberately have unemployment. It's how we control inflation, quote unquote, control it. It's believed that zero unemployment is really inflationary. So we deliberately make sure that there are that whatever percentage, they call it the NIRU, the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment. We deliberately, we're trying to engineer that level of unemployment in the economy as a central bank rate setting committee. That's what they're trying to hit, this target. And I think that's kind of really, it's anti-democratic, it's anti-human, it's anti-social. That we set up a system where people are deliberately going to lose out. It's like a game of musical chairs, and the consequences, and we take those 5 chairs away, and we blame those people for not having somewhere to sit down. So not only are they injured because they just tried to sit down on fresh air, now that also the 45 people who are sitting down are like, well, it's your fault. You don't have the guile to get a job. And it's like, no, it's a deliberate policy. And so that's really what we're aimed at fixing. This awful situation. So,
staying on MMT for a little bit, and then I want to get back to the big picture stuff about you. What are some solutions for all this? Like, because it's I think like exposing people to these ideas is so infinitely important because it's just not something that's commonly accepted in the overall zeitgeist yet. But what can we do about it?
There is a policy proposal within MMT that I think everybody that calls themselves an MMT is behind, really, and that is a job guarantee. In American language, that would be a federal job guarantee because it's like federally funded because the federal government creates money when it spends. So it's the federal government that can't run out of money, but so it's like federally funded but locally administered. So a little bit like maybe the school system or something like that, where all kinds of systems in a country where it's like the funding comes from a central authority, but the actual how you organize it is organized on the ground where the unemployment exists, so the idea is it's a job, you guarantee a job at a socially inclusive wage. Socially inclusive, to my mind, means holidays. If you're in the States, the benefits, the healthcare, and the stuff that you need to exist, that, I would say is a human right. I know not everybody agrees on that, but
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. Uh, uh, and basically, so it's a socially inclusive wage, and that means basically then the private sector, if it wants to hire people out of the job guarantee pool, it has to offer a better kind of job, better in pay and conditions. So you're setting a floor under the standards of what employers can do to their workforce. I think it's really empowering for workers, basically. And I know, and I get, and I'm very sympathetic to, the idea that you can't trust the government with anything. It's big, it's inefficient, it does things wrong all the time. I'm very, I know that in the US you're very, and probably quite rightly so, very suspicious of government
Well, yeah, I mean,
programs.
it's because of the way our government's set up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and also neoliberalism has basically turned not just the US, but all most governments into tools of the class that owns all the stuff. Basically, the owners of capital, basically. So I get why you might look at that situation and go, so we have to just abolish government, and then this capitalist class will stop abusing the power that governments have. But I don't see that as a solution myself. Maybe I'm not thinking hard enough about it or anything, but I just think, and I'm probably channeling Noam Chomsky here, but like if you completely, you just switch the government off tomorrow, then you've basically got a world of force, basically. Like whoever's got the biggest stick at that point. So probably Amazon and I don't know, Tesla and or McDonald's, and they become a kind of de facto government, because that now there is absolutely no countervailing force to private conglomerations of power. So anyway, I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole there, and I'll come back out of it. and just in the defense of this idea of a job guarantee, if we go back to that model where the guy hasn't spent enough business cards into the economy, the question would be, why is he doing that? Because the whole point of setting that system up was because, just to sort of broaden out the metaphor, let's presume this guy who's with the business cards, who can issue the business cards, is the federal government. Hopefully, he's been voted into power democratically on a mandate of delivering a clean floor. So this power is legitimated, hopefully through the ballot box, and they've decided to do it through a money system, and that's why this thing is happening. To not employ everybody that the tax caused to be unemployed is kind of an abuse of the system, or it's a misappropriation of the system. So the base case is everybody gets a job, everybody gets an existence, and so if a way you can think about it is in this country we've got I often say there already is a job guarantee in this country. In the UK, like if you can't find a job in the public or the private sector, the government will pay you to stay at home and have a miserable life, and it won't pay you enough to live on, so it's below subsistence. But you can organize your own workload, and your job is to not die. And your job, in essence, is you're an inflation fighter. You're an unemployed person, and we call this job being on universal credit or being on unemployment benefit. And so we've got this awful job that we guarantee everybody who can't find a job elsewhere, and it doesn't create great communities. And we're trying to replace this job with people doing socially useful work. And the idea is that the job guarantee jobs are kind of fit the worker rather than getting the worker to fit the job. So the jobs will be designed in community, in collaboration with everybody in the community where the unemployment is. Like, okay, what do we think needs doing? What's not getting done right now? And they become the job guarantee jobs. So there's another book that I'll recommend, and maybe you can link to it. It's called The Case for a Job Guarantee, and that's by an American scholar called Pavlina Tcherneva, Professor Pavlina Tcherneva. That's a short book. That's a really good sort of laying out of it. But you can already see I'm kind of like, there's a lot of moving parts to this organism, this money system, and hence why I do a podcast about it, because I get to sort of talk to the academics about it, and they talk about their work, and I can edit it down and I can make it really as succinct as possible. Whereas if I'm just riffing, it's probably not the best way to learn about it. But
No, I mean, this was infinitely helpful, and yeah, I mean, some of the stuff you mentioned, like I've read as well, and Stephanie Kelton's book is great, and Stephen, I actually got to spend time with Stephen when we were in Adelaide.
Oh, great!
Yeah, he came out to the show. Yeah, and then the next day,
great.
We all went to lunch, and it was him and I got help me out here. What's the name of the university they're all at in Adelaide? It was
Torrens University.
Torrens, yeah. It was him.
Yeah.
It was him and like a bunch of the other MMT faculty from Torrens that came out to lunch, and I think they were all at the show too. But yeah, Stephen's great.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm studying. Brilliant. Yeah, he's so great. But he's been over here in the UK doing weekend seminars as well, and they're really well attended. And it really changes people. He's a fantastic teacher, and he's got some more coming up later in September. I don't know when this interview will come out, but September. He's doing a few more European weekend seminars, and we've got Stephen set up this foundation called the Modern Money Lab, basically, and that's the institute that designed the courses that are being taught at Torrens University. And there's now a Modern Money Lab UK, and I'm involved with both. I'm studying at Modern Money Lab, and I am via Torrens, and I'm involved in the planning of these events that come over to the UK. I don't do the heavy lifting, obviously, and say that right off the bat. But I'm there on the ground in some cases, and behind the scenes in other cases. And it is changing things. It's a very small number of people, and it's a very niche interest, but it's starting to add up. It's starting to add up to something quite significant. And like when you can point to, like, Stephanie Kelton has done this best-selling book. There's a film that's been made about the journey of MMT, but Stephanie is a big feature in that film. That's made by a filmmaker called Maren Poitras, who's fantastic. She's done tours with that, so we've got a feature film that's very well put together. That's another great. You can find that online quite easily. It's called Finding the Money. And I'll give you links to that as well, Ron, if you're interested. And you've probably seen that film. And
I've not seen it yet.
We've got this. We've got a best-selling book. We've got feature films, and now we've got a university that's dedicated to teaching economics with the modern money view, basically. So it's it's not just the nature of money and fiat currency. It's it's teaching everything about heterodox economics in the master's course. Yeah. So yeah, it's yeah. When I sort of say it out loud, it's like, yeah, a lot has happened actually in the last few years.
And so you haven't thought, or maybe you have, have you considered like trying to make some sort of specific Christian Reilly creative creation about this? Because I feel like it would be infinitely helpful.
I'm trying to. I have written a lot of this show that I was going to put. That I was going to put on last year, and a few things changed my personal circumstances, and I just couldn't. I just had to do other stuff. I had to do other, just circuit work and all of that kind of thing, and I just didn't get time to get it where I wanted it before I, put it on. So I'm trying to. I've got this show that's brewing, and it will hopefully be at next year's Edinburgh Fringe. It was supposed to be at this year's Edinburgh Fringe, but circumstances, personal life stuff just kind of took front and center.
Oh, okay. Well, you don't have to go into detail, because I was going to ask, was Oasis the personal circumstance? Because that was the case for me.
Right.
That was the case for me. Housing prices were through the roof this year. I was going to potentially bring a play to Edinburgh.
Oh, good.
But we ended up doing it in Hollywood instead. Home field advantage. And because we were just like the housing prices.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, something happened there because the local Edinburgh Council changed the rental rules for good reasons, and kind of, it was basically, if anybody watches this and I'm wrong, do write in, but I think what happened is that the council basically stopped landlords from being able to do 11-month tenancy periods. So, because what landlords would do is have some students in a place and then kick them out for August, and then make money off a different bunch of people in August. But so in a way, that's good for the people that live in Edinburgh, and that's gone. But it just took a whole load of rental short-term lets out of the equation. And it's classic supply and demand thing. So so the rents, and particularly for that month, just went through the roof. And initially, and they've stayed there. They're not coming down.
Yeah. Well,
so it's really expensive.
Yeah,
it's expensive Yeah,
I don't understand all the ins and outs of it either, because I'm just not totally abreast to everything. But yeah, I heard they basically did some things that led to some unintended consequences that just kind of made everything so through the roof. Even I think there was even some kind of short-term rental rules that they put in place with the hope that it would curb some corruption, but it ended up just leading towards prices just totally blowing up, because the way these rules applied, it took away some kind of short-term rooms and stuff. So then the prices just went, totally through the. And then Oasis decided, we're going to have our tour in Edinburgh right during the Fringe. And I was like, when I found out about it, I was seeing hotel rooms going for £15,000 for a weekend and stuff like that. I was like, you know what? It would be karma if the Gallagher brothers killed each other before they got to the Edinburgh date, and then all the greedy landlords were screwed. Everyone, because a bunch of artists skipped Edinburgh this year, and now there's no Oasis concert. Yeah. But I don't think that's how it transpired. But well, hey, in closing, where can people go to learn more about you?
You know what? I was online. I'm very much into the economics stuff now, and so my Twitter, and I will always call it Twitter. My Twitter handle is at MMT Podcast, and that's maybe the easiest way. I find, I just I find that's how I want to connect with people over economic type of stuff. Really, I've got a website and it's hideously out of date, but it's, when I get this show together, I will be posting there as well. My website is christreilly.com. And so if you can't find anything, so Christ as in the popular philosopher from 0 AD, and Reilly is Reilly, Reilly. Yes, I can spell my own name. Yes, christreilly.com. And I think you can message me through that site as well. But be nice. is a thing. I'm very, very delicate. That's all I ask. It's online has just gotten so just ugly, and
it's brutal.
It's just such a bin fire. Yeah. But I love podcasts. I love people putting ideas into the world in the best way possible, and often the best way possible is not the 240 character sick burn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I try to use social media and not be used by it.
I like that. Yeah, that's a brilliant way to put it. Well, Christian, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. It's great to talk to you, and thanks for listening to me ramble on about economics. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but if it is your cup of tea, I'm there for you.
That was Christian Reilly. Check out all his stuff. Oh, and by the way, there is a resource page in the podcast notes this week. Christian DM me a bunch of resources that he wanted to share, which is really, really cool. And of course, we will have more MMT centric episodes in this series. For those of you that followed my previous podcast, Get Your News On with Ron, you know that MMT was a common topic of discussion. Music for the 1000 podcast is provided by Andrew Saxon. Be sure to check out his podcast, the Baywatching Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Please make sure you're subscribed. Leave us a friendly review if you don't mind. That really, really helps. Tell your friends and drop us an email, romplaconebooking@gmail.com, or you can just go to my website, romplacone.com, fill out the contact form. Who do you want me to have on this show? We just reached the top of another decade. Before you know it, we're going to be at 1,000, and we're all going to be about 20 years older. It's you feel the time in a very fast way. I guess that's part of life. If you want to support this show on the sustainability end, best way to do it is patreon.com/romplacone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of cool perks. You get full stand-up clips not available anywhere else. And also we have a Zoom hangout once a month. It's a really cool hang, cool like-minded people, really cool community, and that's all just for a give what you can level. Even $1 a month, it goes a long way, and you get a lot of cool stuff in return. So patreon.com/romplacone. All right, like I mentioned, top of a decade, 110, moving on, moving forward. Christian Reilly, check it out, and we'll catch you next week. Peace. Hey guys, Ron Placone here. Take your own 1,000 challenge. No, you don't need to interview 1,000 people, although if you want to do that, go for it. Your 1,000 challenge can be whatever you want. Maybe you want to call a friend out of the blue once a week. Maybe you want to read a book every month. Maybe you want to start a different garden every season. I guess that might be dependent on where you live. Look, the point of the challenge is taking on an endeavor that enriches your life in some way, and it can be measured. And then, of course, you do it regularly. That's what 1,000 is doing for me, and hopefully for you too. The main reason for this podcast and every podcast I've ever done is to build community. So take your own challenge. Then join our Facebook group. It's called 1,000 What's Your Challenge? ? That's 1,000 What's Your Challenge ? And post about what your 1,000 challenge is and the progress you're making. All I ask is that people be encouraging of each other's challenges. This is personal and vulnerable, so be cool. There's enough negativity on social media. We don't need to add to it. For those of you who aren't on Facebook, hopefully in the future we'll be expanding to places like Discord, Reddit, but for now, we're starting on Facebook. And again, that Facebook group is called 1,000 What's Your Challenge? See you there.